Hi, in this video I'm going to show you some tips on how to research a prospect or customer and learn a little bit about them. The first thing you can do is go to their website. So I just picked this random account, Pennsylvania Council of Children, Youth, and Family Services. And the first thing to kind of think about when you're researching a prospect is obviously what kind of prospect they are. Obviously, if it's a church, that's one thing. But when you're researching a nonprofit or something on the commercial side, actually they all tend to fall into similar groups, which you can kind of look here. They're going to be maybe a nonprofit or a social service, maybe healthcare. Normally child welfare is another one, human services, or education. Really, there's only about a half dozen different types. So if you figure out who you're talking to, first of all, that's a big start. So the second thing you want to do is you want to go to their website. So I'm at their website, and there's a couple tabs that you want to go to. First of all, you can just check the general bottom, just familiarize yourself with the website. And then you always want to go to the About or About Us section. Who we are, anything like that. You can just learn a little bit about the history. Maybe you can pull out some information from there. So you can see right here that you can understand the mission and the various things that reflect about this organization. It's really a child welfare organization. They have various outreaches that help children that maybe experience trauma and ways to kind of maneuver through that. So then the next thing you want to look at is something that's called either services or programs. Here in the services, you can kind of get a feel for what they do. They do some outpatient things. This would be an important thing. Residential treatment. They may have medical consultants or maybe some counselors that go to in-home counseling. So that's something to kind of note. Also, trying to figure out what sorts of counseling, what sorts of outreaches they really do. It looks like they might do some child advocacy because they're working a lot with the government. These are all things to know, and when you're looking at these, it may seem like, wow, this seems like it's pretty new, but a lot of customers have a lot of similarities with one another. So when I get one of these, maybe it's a child welfare organization, Daryl has a select few of accounts that I can reference in regards to a similar account such as this. So I'll put this in the notes section in Tech Canary. Now when I'm looking at what they do, I'll use this description. So I'll write things like, and so now I have this information down pat, and I can always adjust it. So even if I'm not 100% right, if you familiarize yourself to some extent with the customer, when you call them, they're going to definitely notice a difference and you'll sound a lot better. Ultimately, you're not responsible for knowing every detail about the customer. Only the customer knows more about themselves than anyone else. Your job is just to figure out what they do, just to make sure you're covering all the responsibilities and all the liabilities or outreaches that they have. I'll show you on the church as well. And as a church, you can see About Us. You can see the staff, and that would be an important thing. So here, you can get the staff, and on a big church, obviously an executive pastor is going to be someone you want to reach out to. There's an email right there, email and name. So when you call, you have a name and someone to reach out to and say, hey, I think this is who I'm supposed to speak to about your ministry's insurance, but I'm not sure. Could you forward me over to them? So that's just an option. The other thing that you can see is just kind of the outreaches that they have. You can see ministries. You can see it looks like they have a senior adult ministry. It looks like this could be a counseling exposure because of the things that they offer. It might be something to check. It looks like they have global outreaches, so it might be something to reach out and talk about whether or not they have mission travels and need mission coverage. So this is a good start, and these are things you can put in your Tech Canary. And again, I put them in the description and a notes section, but that you can really use that however you want. So the next option is to use GuideStar. And if you don't have an account, I really recommend it, especially when you're working with nonprofits. This is specifically for nonprofits. If you have a for-profit entity, it won't be on here. If it's just a for-profit business, it won't be on here. Some churches are on here as well, but not all. So as you can see, I pulled up, this was the account I was looking at before. This is the Pennsylvania Council of Children, Youth, and Family Services, and I have it on this account. So there's some really important information you can find on here. First of all, you have your FEIN. So that's a little bit of information that you need to start. So the second thing is you can see their assets and gross receipts. So we'll get in here, we'll just click on the account. So here's a brief description of what they do. And this may actually give you a better idea on the description of what they are and what they do. So this is a little vague. This doesn't give us too much descriptions, anything new that we already thought. But we're going to go into the tax forms and see if we can find anything additional. So you want to click on these tax forms. So this has some information that is going to be really important. This section will give you a breakdown of just kind of a description of what the company is. The other thing is you can see the net assets and the revenue and the total expenses, just kind of range for you. If you have something with about 10 million assets or over, this may not be an account that you really want to go after. At that point, it's likely over a $100,000 account, and it might be a little bit tougher to go into. But anything under 10 million, I highly encourage you to go after. So a little bit of information you can kind of diagnose from that. Obviously, you can determine by the size. If it's over $1 million assets, this is going to be closer to C4, C5 account. The other thing to look at is you can see the names of important individuals here. This is a chief strategic officer here. So when I called, I just name dropped her, and I was like, hey, does Bernadette handle the insurance? And the secretary said no, and then transferred me over to the person that did. So all you really need is a name and something to look like you did the research, and just move on with your day. The other thing, you can kind of, again, get another description of what the organization does. But if you keep scrolling down, you can see all the board members on here. So you can see the president of the board and some of the directors. You can also see the executive director and things like that. So this is very handy to know. This can help you fill out your contacts list when you're moving through. So then, just to recap, when you're looking at researching a prospect, there's three main things that you want to do. You want to check the website, you want to check the about or who we are, you want to check the services, or you want to check the programs. You also want to see if you can find a staff link as well, so you can get staff members numbers and names. Then GuideStar, you want to go to GuideStar, you want to get the mission statements. You can even save and print this off for reference at next time, and you can get even names and numbers and FEIN numbers from here as well. And then finally, having this in Techinary and having this in the notes and descriptions, so that the next time you go through this, you'll have your information easily accessible and you'll be able to easily call on this. Hope that helps, y'all. Have a good one.